Hello, welcome to this video. This is 5-4A, and we are going to solve some rational equations in context, and these are specifically called work problems. So our learning intention, I am learning to solve a work problem using a rational equation. Now our success criteria is going to look eerily similar to the success criteria that we've had for the past couple of lessons. It's because we're doing the same thing. We're just going to add some meaning and some context to the numbers that we're working with. So the first one is I can find the LCD, the lowest common denominator. Remember, that is your bread and butter, your base. You need that in order to solve equations, and that's our second success criteria. You know you're successful if you can solve the rational equation, come up with a value, and then lastly, since we're working in context, we want to be able to interpret the solution to the equation. What does it mean? What are we talking about? And write a complete conclusion. So here is our first example, and this says Tommy can paint a table in 4 hours. His coworker Raul can paint the same table in 3 hours. If they work together, how long will it take to paint the table together? I think there's supposed to be a word together there. So sometimes it's very good with word problems, context problems, to go back and reread and even highlight, underline key information. So I'm going to go ahead and model that here. It says Tommy can paint the table in 4 hours. Okay, his coworker Raul can paint the same table in 3 hours. Now here we go. If they work together, how long will it take to paint the table? Okay, these problems are often set up in this same manner, and here they say the equation 1/4 plus 1/3 equals 1 over x represents the situation where x is the time working together. Solve the equation and write a sentence conclusion, round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so if I have this equation, 1 over 4 plus 1 over 3 equals 1 over x, I want to go ahead and solve this. Now before I do, I want to tie this to what we talked about in the word problem, in the prompt. They said Tommy can paint the table in 4 hours. I want you to see here that we have a 4. So here is Tommy's work, 1 over 4. And Raul can paint it in 3 hours. There's the 1 over 3. And then here it says where x is the time working together. Okay, so that's them working together. And all of that is stated in the initial prompt. Okay, I want to go ahead and solve this. All right, so what are our steps in order to solve a rational equation? Step number 1. What is the LCD? Now, you can go ahead and find the LCM and utilize the variable, but with these problems, with work problems, it's so easy to just go ahead and copy whatever the terms are. 4 times 3 times x. Now we know these numbers are simple enough. We know that the LCD is 12x. So I can go ahead and step 2, I'm going to multiply every single term now by 12x. And rather than put it in 12x, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write it 4 times 3 times x. 4 times 3 times x. And I'm doing this, you'll see why here in a second, because we only have one thing in the denominator. So here, the 4 is going to cancel, and now I have 3x times 1. Well, that's just 3x. Here I have the 3 that cancels, and I just have the 4x. So 3x plus 4x equals, over here, I have an x that cancels, and I have 4 times 3, which we know is 12. Pretty simple, right? There's not a lot of heavy lifting in the math here. So I have 3x plus 4x. This gives us 7x equals 12. And x is equal to 12 divided by 7. So I do want to go ahead and reduce this because I am working with it in context. I want to find out what that is approximately. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use an available calculator. Or if you have one in your classroom, you can do that. Or you can just go to Google and go to Desmos. And I'm going to go to Desmos. And rather than use the graphing calculator, the main graphing calculator, I'm going to go up here to the top and where it says Math Tools, and there's a scientific calculator. Now this is more akin to what you're used to seeing. So we have our equation here, 12 divided by 7. Any old 4 function would work with this, but 12 divided by 7, and we get 1.714. 1.714. Now, they do want us to round to the nearest tenth. That is stated at the end here, round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to round here. I'm going to look to the number next door, right, to the 1 that's less than 4 or less. I'm going to let it rest. So this is 1.7. 1.7. That is our solution. Okay, so what does this mean in context? What are we even solving? Well, X, they tell you, X represents the time working together. And what are they doing? They're painting a table. So we can say, if, I think it was Raul and Tommy, if Tommy and Raul paint the table together, it will take them about 1.7 what? 1.7, are we talking about seconds? 1.7 minutes? 1.7 hours? So check, units are very, very important. So here we have Tommy can paint the table in 1.7 hours. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and look at example number 2. And I want you to try to look at the similarities in structure and how we're going to go ahead and solve this, as well as the differences, because these problems vary a little bit, but not much. All right, example. Jasmine can rake the leaves in her yard in 40 minutes. Her sister Blanca helps her, and they can rake the leaves in 24 minutes. If Blanca worked by herself, how long would it take her to rake the leaves? Okay, I'm going to highlight this information. Jasmine can rake the leaves in 40 minutes. If her sister Blanca helps her, they can rake the leaves in 24 minutes. If Blanca worked by herself, how long would it take her to rake the leaves? So I want to tie that to the equation they give us. They say 1 over 40. Well, there's Jasmine working one job in 40 minutes, plus 1 over x. I don't know what x is. That's Blanca. So Jasmine and Blanca, well, if they work together, they can do it in 24 minutes. So this represents the situation, again, where x is the time it takes Blanca to rake the leaves. So that's what we're solving for. They say solve the equation and write a sentence conclusion to the nearest minute. Okay, so I have 1 over 40 plus 1 over x is equal to 1 over 24. I'm going to go ahead and solve this by first finding the LCD. What is the lowest common denominator? Or in this case, just the common denominator. And notice these numbers are going to be a little bit more involved to find the lowest common denominator. So that's why it's so easy. I'm just going to take 40, I'm going to take 24, and I'm going to take x. And when I multiply by 40 times 24 times x, one of these is going to cancel always. And I'm going to multiply the second term by 40 times 24 times x, and the third term, 40 times 24 times x. And so now terms are going to go ahead and cancel. So I have 40 that cancels. I have x that cancels. And I have 24 that cancels. I'm talking to my students, Ella. Do you want to say hi? You don't want to say hi? Okay. Ella says hi, everyone. So I have 24x plus 40 times 24. We'll use our calculator there in a second, which is equal to 40 times x. So let's use our calculator. Let's go ahead and simplify the 40 times the 24. So 40 times 24, that gives 960. So 24x plus 960 is equal to 40x. I'm going to go ahead and solve this. I'll subtract the 24x. Remember, this is a linear structure, a linear equation. I'm going to go ahead and move my variables to one side. So now we have 960 is equal to, I believe, 16x there. And then we'll go ahead and divide by 16 to find out what x is equal to. So we get x is equal to 960. 960 divided by 16, and we get 60 on the dot. Okay, 60. So what does this mean in terms of context? Well, we're talking about Blanca raking the leaves by herself. So if Blanca rakes the leaves by herself, she will be able to do it in, and this is 60 minutes. They say round to the nearest minute. I'm going to keep it in minutes. I know that that is 1 hour, but I'll keep it in 60 minutes. All right. That is it. That's it. So today we learned how to solve a work problem by using a rational equation. Go ahead, like the video, subscribe. Catch you guys in the next math lesson. See ya.